Hello neighbors, it's Brad here at eTrailer, and today we're taking a look at installing the TowSmart Trailer Hitch Receiver on a 2021 Jeep Wrangler 4xe. As you probably know, Jeeps are one of the most customizable or accessorized vehicles, and they kind of are synonymous with the word adventure. And whatever adventure you're going on, adding a trailer hitch receiver just opens up the amount of real estate or what you can do with your Jeep. So it's kind of a no-brainer, whether you're putting a bike rack, a cargo carrier, or a ball mount to pull the trailer, adding a hitch, super easy to do, and it's really gonna make your Jeep that much more usable. Now this is what it's going to look like when it's installed, and there's not a whole lot to it. It bolts up to the rear bumper and has a really clean look overall, and it's going to be a 2" by 2" receiver tube opening, which is great. It's the standard size that you find on most trailer hitch receivers, so when it comes to accessories, whether it be that bike rack, cargo carrier, ball mount, you're going to have tons of options available. Now all of your accessories are going to stay in place with a 5/8 pin and clip. That is not included with the hitch. Many times when you buy accessories, they'll have them included. But if you plan on getting something that you're gonna leave on the back of your Jeep long term, you might wanna take a look at a locking pin and clip. That becomes a good deterrent for anyone that's walking by. They can't just take that pin and clip out and take your accessories with them. Now, if you do plan on pulling a trailer, the safety chain loops are a plate style. Makes it super easy for hooking up your safety chain. So if you have a standard S hook, that'll go on fairly easily. It's a little bit wide here, so it sits kind of at an angle. You can also take a larger clevis style, and that's going to be a little bit of a push to get on there, but with a certain angle, you can get that on there. If you're fighting to put your safety chains on regularly, you can just simply get a quick link and put that through. It'll make it super easy to hook up if you tow regularly. Now, as far as capacities go in towing, you're going to want to adhere to the capacities of the hitch, but also what the vehicle's rated at towing. So take a look at the vehicle's owner's manual, see what the vehicle can do, and then compare it with the numbers and capacities of the hitch, which this one's pretty solid. Out the gate, your gross trailer weight rating is going to be 3,500 pounds, which is the weight of the trailer, plus the accessories that are loaded onto it. As far as tongue weight goes, that's going to be the downward pressure on the inside of the receiver tube opening. So bike racks, cargo carriers, or anything suspended really falls into that category. It's going to be 350 pounds. Now it can be used with a weight distribution hitch, and it will bump up the numbers a little bit. Your gross trailer weight rating goes to 4,000 pounds, and your tongue weight will go up to 400. Jeeps are one of the few vehicles that still have a spare tire on the back, and it definitely adds to that off-road look, but when it comes to accessories, it can get in the way. So if you're looking at a bike rack or cargo carrier that stows in a vertical position, you're going to want to make sure to have a long shank to be able to account for the spare tire. And the same goes for a ball mount. Having one that extends out a little bit further with a longer shank is going to make it easier to hook up to those trailers without the tire getting in the way. And so measuring from the center of our hitch pin hole to the furthest point of our tire, it's right at about 7 inches. So again, looking for longer shank items is going to be beneficial, and also making sure that you get the proper rise or drop for a ball mount is going to be key as well, because the more level your trailer is, the better towing experience you'll have. So measuring our ground clearance from the top of the receiver tube opening to the ground, it's 19 inches. And in order to figure out the rise or drop necessary, you're going to want to grab your trailer, get it as level as possible, and measure from the ground to the top of the coupler. Do the math between the measurements of the hitch and your trailer, and that's going to give you your rise or drop. And that way when you hook up, it should be nice and level, and it'll go down the road perfectly. When it comes to the installation of the hitch, this is actually a really easy one to do. There's holes that are already in that rear frame where the hitch will sandwich around, and you're just going to pass 4 bolts through. You may have some factory bolts as well as a spacer plate there that will need to come down, but overall it's really easy. You can do it in your driveway or garage. So for you DIYers, stick around and I'll show you how to do it step by step. But if you don't have the place to do it, the tools to do it, the want to do it, I totally get it, but I think it's totally worth having that hitch on the back of your Jeep. So the installation shouldn't scare you off. You can always reach out to one of our dealers by using our dealer locator to find someone close to you to get that hitch installed, and that way you can still enjoy the use of your hitch. But if you get it installed, whether through a dealer or yourself, let us know how it went. Take some pictures of it and show us using it out in the open. We love to see how neighbors are utilizing the products we sell you, just to see what adventures you go on. With all that being said, let's take a look at the installation, get your hitch installed. To begin our installation, we're going to be right here on the rear beam where we're going to be bolting up our hitch. And more times than not, these will have factory bolts that go into the rail and sometimes you use them, but that's not the case here today. There's also going to be a plate up front that's attached. It's just going to have weld nuts that those bolts go into. We're going to get that completely removed, and in order to do that, you're going to want an 18mm wrench. Those two factory bolts are going to be located just right behind the muffler, so we'll get these taken out. Now, depending on what kind of elements your vehicle has been in, these can get a little bit tricky, so if you need to, you can put some penetrating oil on those threads, and that'll kind of help loosen it up, but we'll get these removed. Most times these will pull out with no problem. They're a pretty long bolt. Occasionally you'll run into issues depending on trim with the muffler being in the way. If that is the case, you can just lower it down. There's going to be some exhaust isolators on each side of the muffler, and just using a pry bar and some soapy water, just pry those off, and that's going to allow the exhaust to drop down, and it's going to make it a lot easier to get that hardware out. But again, that's only certain trims. On this one, we're not having any issues. Now the bracket with the weld nuts, that will need to come down, and it's attached where on the bottom side of the bumper you're going to see two 10mm bolts. They're going to be the wider ones, not the ones in the center. We're going to get this taken out, and that way we can get that plate taken out. Now from here, we should be able to shimmy this out. You may need to kind of work it at a few different angles here, but let's see if I can't come up with any tips for you. Now, you can remove these small 8mm if you need to, but I found to get this out, just kind of pry back that plastic a little, and once you get these tabs past that, you'll see it kind of sits up there like this, so that way we can just kind of pop that out. So you may have to force it a little bit, but with that out of the way, now we can start getting our hitch up. Now we're ready to get our hitch in place, and we're just going to hold it in, getting the holes aligned, and I recommend having at least one bolt ready with a flat washer on the head of the bolt. We're going to continue this hardware the same way for each of them, but the main thing is as we raise this up and put the bolt through, it's going to hold the hitch up there, make it easier to get the rest of them in place. Now it may be tight on the back side. If you have to move the muffler, you can take off the isolators, but generally you should be able to get a straight shot through. And sometimes there's going to be some tolerance issues with the holes that were previously there. If that's the case and you're getting a little resistance, sometimes if you just take the ratchet later on and kind of start to run that through, it'll help push the bolt through or kind of find its threads. If it's giving you too much of an issue, you may need to kind of drill that out a little bit, but more times than not, you can clear it. So now I'll just get my other bolts, get those passed through the hole. With those passed in, we're going to grab our serrated flange nut and get these started. Now on the outside ones, it's fairly easy. You can just kind of pinch the nut and then thread on the back side with the head of the bolt to get them started. If it is really tight, what you can do is use a 3/4 inch wrench and just put that in the box end, and that will slide that in place. You may need to pull the bolt back just a hair to give it some clearance. And then you can slide this in place and then thread it by hand on the head of the bolt to get it started. With the hardware all started, now we're going to grab two 3/4 inch wrenches, and I recommend having a ratcheting one. It'll save you quite a bit of time here, but holding the wrench on the bolt head and then going on the back side, we're just going to snug these all down. Now we're going to come back with a torque wrench, so no need to get too crazy here. You can really get it as snug as you can with these wrenches, and then the torque wrench will take care of the rest. But for now, we'll get it all snug. Now, something I'll point out is the holes are slightly oblong or slotted to allow a little bit of adjustment left to right. So get it as centered as possible as you snug it down. It's not going to make a huge difference, but if you're going to install it once, you might as well have it right in the center. So I will be torquing on the head of the bolt with my torque wrench while holding the nut in place with my wrench. Now, for the torque setting, you can find those in the instruction manual, and we'll go through and get these all torqued down properly. Once you torque down your hardware, you've officially installed your hitch. Now, that 10mm bolt that goes on both sides here, that originally bolted up to that spacer bracket that we took off. So you no longer have the mounting points for those, but you don't need to put those back in. It's not going to cause any issue on the bumper. So all that's left for you to do is load up your accessories, put in your pin and clip, and hit the road. And that was a look and installation of the TowSmart Trailer Hitch Receiver on a 2021 Jeep Wrangler 4xe.